Hi everyone, how are you doing tonight? Just want to get started. Today we're going to be learning about how to read poetry. I'm Jessica, and today we're going to be learning about how to read poetry, reading and understand poetry. We'll focus on tone, paraphrasing, and patterns. And what do you guys already know about tone, patterns, and poetry in patterns? What do you guys already know about tone and patterns in poetry? Anybody want to share? Okay, they contribute to the overall meaning. Yes, they help with the overall theme. Good, Natalie. Yeah, they help with the overall meaning. That's really good. Yes, tone, patterns, and poetry all help with breaking down poetry, using strategies, really help with testing. Anyone else? Let's get started. So tone, let's do a quick overview. Tone is an author's attitude towards the subject of a poem. So it can be maybe a angry attitude, maybe a positive attitude, maybe a kind of almost subjective to the mood. So tone is how the author or how the poet is speaking in the poem. Pattern and paraphrasing, to put down something in your own words in order to gain a better understanding. And pattern is just a consistent flow. What do you keep seeing? Almost like repetition in a poem. And repetition is things that are constantly being repeated in a poem. Could be at the beginning of a poem, or it could be at the end of a poem. It really depends on the type of poetry. So when learning about poetry, I like to use SIFT. And SIFT is just a simple strategy that I use to help me gain a better understanding of how to break down a poem. So if you guys want to take notes, you're welcome to. If you have a journal, maybe something to write down to really help you break down poetry now and in the future. So does everyone have a journal or notebook? Can I get an emoji or a thumbs up? I'll give you a minute to maybe grab a pen or a pencil. Yes. Martha says yes. Feline says yes. Olivia, yes. Santiago, yes. Great. Anna, yeah. Good. Okay. Is everyone ready to break down some poetry? Okie dokie, we're ready. So SIFT. SIFT stands for symbolism. So the S in SIFT stands for symbolism. And that is all symbols that are represented in a poem other than itself. So maybe if we're talking about autumn, that could be leaves, that could be maybe the wind blowing, anything in a poem that represents something else. The I is inference or imagery. Why do you think the poet wrote this poem? And it also can be used to help you with paraphrasing. The F in SIFT stands for figurative language. So that's any kind of figurative language. That could be similes, that could be metaphors, repetition, which is patterns, onomatopoeia, hyperboles, exaggerations, anything figurative language speaking, that's the F in SIFT. And then the T in SIFT represents tone or theme. And that's the overall message or moral that the author wants you to learn. So I'll give you guys a minute to copy down SIFT. And the S stands for symbolism. The I stands for inference or imagery. It could be either or. The F stands for figurative language. And again, that could be any similes, metaphors, onomatopoeia, repetition, anything that could help you. Maybe the author incorporated into the poem to help bring about life to the poem, to help you think, maybe to even to bring drama to the poem. Anything that an author uses figurative language wise will help you break that poem down. And then the T in SIFT is theme and tone. Can everyone let me know if you're ready, if you have your notes taken? You get a smiley face if you guys have everything written down. Okay. Anna says she's ready. What is the whole word? SIFT. Yes, I'll repeat. So the S in SIFT stands for symbolism. Yes, I'll repeat it. The S stands for symbolism. And that's any symbol used in a poem. So maybe if we're learning about the earth, maybe they will use grass. They could use water to represent peace. Maybe they were going to use maybe the sun to represent life. Anything that's an object in the poem that's used to represent something else. So when I think of symbolism, I kind of think of maybe a heart, and the heart could represent what? What do you think a heart represents when it comes to symbol? Love, good. Maybe love. Good. What about if I was to say trees? What would trees represent in symbolism? Okay, nature, good. Growth, good. Nature, nature. Okay. What about a flower? What could a flower represent? Peace, good. Love, purity, good. Beauty, fertility, yes. Good. Yes. All of these are great. All of these are representations of symbolism. What about a germ? What could a germ represent? Like a pathogen or a germ? Death, good. Epidemics, this is great, yes. Sickness, yes. Good. All of these things are examples of symbolism. Yes, illness, crisis, great. This is amazing. Rebecca, good. Lucy, good. I see you. Santiago. Natalie, yes. Epidemics, death, sickness, illness. All of these things are examples of symbolism. Good. And then the I in symbolism, it could represent imagery or inference. So imagery and inference. Imagery is what you see when you visualize or when you're reading a poem. So maybe if I say the golden leaves fell lightly from the trees. When I close my eyes, I visualize maybe golden leaves. Maybe I feel the cool breeze of fall. All those things is what I imagine when I read a poem. And then figurative language. Can someone give me an example of what a simile is? Good. Darkest night. Yes. Good, Santiago. Anyone else can give me an example of a simile? Good. She was smooth as silk. Yes. Happy as a clown. Great. Anything else? Happy as a clown. She was smooth as silk. Dark as night. This is great. Yes. All of these are wonderful examples of similes. What about repetition? Cold as ice. Yes. Yes. When you think about repetition, what do you think? Hot as fire. I'm still getting similes. Yes, these are great. Lucy, I see you have hot as fire. Olivia has cold as ice. Happy as a clown. She was smooth as silk. Santiago has dark as night. Great. Yes. All of these are great examples of similes. Similes. So a simile is all things that are comparing two things using like or as. What about metaphors? Still a quick overview of metaphors. Who can give me an example of a metaphor? Good. Blackish charcoal. The same without using like or as. Yeah. The exact same thing without using like or as. This is great. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah, she's sunshine. Yeah. This is great. You guys are doing amazing. Keep up the great rate. Her heart is gold. Yeah, she has a pure heart of gold. Good. I'm going to skip down to theme. So theme can sometimes be a hard concept to grasp because it can be an implied theme or an explicit thing, or it is kind of like a so the difference between implied themes and explicit themes, or implied themes, you have to really break that poem down to really gain an understanding for what the author is trying to describe or say, versus the explicit themes are really direct themes. That's something that the author is directly going to tell you. You won't have to figure it out. Maybe at the end of the poem, the author would say, always make great decisions, or always choose to do the right thing. Well, the author directly wants you to know, make great decisions, choose to do the right thing. Maybe keep your heart, or maybe guard your heart. Those are different things that the author really wants you to know. Versus implied themes, you really have to break that poem down to really understand exactly what the author is trying to describe, or exactly what the author is trying to tell you. So we're going to be looking at both of those. I really want you guys to think about that while we're breaking down Poetry Day. It really helps. Implied themes versus explicit themes. How's everyone doing? All right, is everyone ready to move on? Yes, the theme is for SIFT. Yes. So theme is the last letter in SIFT. The S was symbolism. The I was inference. The F was figurative language. And then the last letter in SIFT stands for theme. Yes. Everyone ready to move on? Can I get some emojis? Or yes. Yes. So the T in SIFT stands for theme, and it can also stand for tone. It has a double meaning. Great. And the I was imagery and inference. Imagery was what do you see when you read the poem, and also an inference. What do you infer about the poem? Why do you think the author wrote the poem? What message do you think the author was trying to convey when they wrote the poem? What emotion do you think the author was going through, or what maybe life crisis do you think the author was going through? What inspired the poem? Inference can go for anything. You use background knowledge plus facts, which you already know about the topic, in order to create an inference. So I'll say it again, when it comes to inferencing, you always use background knowledge. So maybe what you already know about the poet or the author. Facts. So basically everything that the author places inside of that poem. And then you use that to create your inference. Let's get started. So today we're going to be looking at a poem called The Germ. So I'll read it to you guys, and you guys can read it too. A mighty creature is the germ, though smaller than a pachyderm. His customary dwelling place is deep within the human race. His childish pride he often pleases by giving people strange diseases. Do you, my poppet, feel infirm? You probably contain a germ. And that is by Ogun Nash. So let's look at this poem really quick. Does anyone see any symbolism? What symbolism does the author use? Good. You see personification. Yes. Someone said you can't see the poem. Are we supposed to see it? Yes, you are supposed to see it. Can you guys see it? Is there any way you can show the poem? Yes. Okay. So let's look at this poem again. It says, a mighty creature is the germ, though smaller than a pachyderm. His customary dwelling place is deep within the human race. His childish pride he often pleases by giving people strange diseases. Do you, my poppet, feel infirm? You probably contain a germ. This is The Germ, written by Ogun Nash. So what do you guys see then in the poem? Do you see any symbolism? What symbolism did the author use? Any symbolism? Good. The germ. Yes. Good. Good. Yes, germs. What about dwelling place? What does a dwelling place represent? Good. Could be home. Could be shelter. Good. Maybe a home. Yes. So what's the dwelling place of a germ? What do germs usually cohabitate or hang out? Yeah, in a body. Us. Yeah. Humans. Good. Maybe hot places, maybe places that are infested, maybe trash. Since a mighty creature is the germ, though smaller than a pachyderm, his customary dwelling place is deep within the human race. Yeah. His childish pride he often pleases by giving people strange diseases. Do you, my poppet, feel infirm? You probably contain a germ. Okay, so we broke down the S. What about the I? What imagery do you see when you read the poem? The I in SIFT. What imagery do you guys see? Good. A germ in a person? Yes. How does germs in people? Good. The germ symbolizes a problem. Yes, Martha. How does a germ inside of people usually manifest itself? What does that look like? Yes, duplicates. Illness, yes. Possibly a cold, maybe sinus issues, sickness, yes. Yeah, it makes it sound like the germ. Santiago said it makes it sounds like, yeah. What about the figurative language? Any figurative language? I saw someone earlier said personification. Anything else? So any rhymes? Yes, we have rhymes. What about any repetition? You see anything being repeated in a pattern? Yes, germ is being repetition. Yeah, germ is being definitely repeated. Kind of a hyperbole in the first line. Yes. A mighty creature is the germ, though smaller than a pachyderm. Definitely some rhyme. His customary dwelling place is deep within the human race. His childish pride he often pleases. Yes, it is definitely personification. Yeah, that's giving the human-like characteristics to a germ by giving people strange diseases. Do you, my poppet, feel infirm? You probably contain a germ. Yeah, this is good. What about theme? What do you think the overall message? The overall message of the poem. What do you think the author was trying to express or maybe say with writing this poem? I'll let you guys share and then I'll tell you what I think. Yeah, it's definitely inevitable. I really believe that germs are inevitable. The negativity of life, yes. Acknowledging germs. Yeah, this is really good. Yeah. I was really curious when reading this poem, and I wonder maybe if Ogun Nash was maybe a germaphobe or maybe someone who worked around maybe a lot of people. Maybe he carried hand sanitizer everywhere. I was really curious as to what made him write the poem. I wonder what kind of lifestyle he lived. It really made me think about it. What about the tone? What tone or overall? Yeah, the same. Yeah. It really makes me think. I wonder what kind of person was Ogun. What do you think? What's the tone of the poem? What do you guys think? What's the tone or overall voice of the poem? Yeah, it's really calm. It really is, yeah. To be about such something so serious, it does have a very calm feel. Yeah. And he's definitely accepting reality that we have germs. We do. So we discussed the tone of the poem. Did anyone see like a rhyme scheme? Like an A B rhyme scheme? I'll go back. What's the rhyme scheme of the poem? There was a couple of things that rhymed inside of it. If I look back at it, I can definitely see germ and pachyderm rhymes together, place and race, pleases and diseases. Yeah. AABB. Perfect. Yeah. Good. Definitely an AABB rhyme scheme. This is so with knowing that it's an AABB rhyme scheme, does anyone know, is this a lyrical poem or is it a free verse poem? Yes, definitely lyrical. This is definitely a lyrical poem. Yes. 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 Yeah, Olivia says lyrical. Santiago says lyrical. Yes, this is definitely a lyrical poem. Definitely a lyrical poem. So I'm just curious, how would one person or how would a person put this poem in their own words? Is AABB the same? Then we say AABB in lowercase. Yes, it is definitely the same. It will be the same, whether uppercase or lowercase. It will be the same rhyme scheme. How would you put this poem in your own words? After reading it, digesting it with SIFT, breaking down the figurative language, breaking down the theme, what do you think the moral or the lesson that he wants you to learn? What message do you think he wants to express or say by writing this poem? Yeah, we have to accept reality. Anyone else? That bad things happen when it comes to human nature. Yes. When I look at this poem, yes, bad things happen when it comes to the human race, so we have to learn to deal with it. Yes. Yes. I think it's very interesting that he says his childish pride he often pleases by giving people strange diseases. So it almost gives a germ, almost a childlike simplicity or almost a childlike joy by giving people strange diseases. I think it kind of has a funny tone to me in a weird way because it almost gives a germ kind of like like a childish giggle. When I read the poem, I think about almost joy, like a germ being excited about seeing people sick. I know it's kind of weird, but it really makes me think about that. It's normal to pass through bad times, but we have to accept it and move it on. Yes, I love it, Rebecca. Definitely. It's normal to pass through bad times, but we have to accept it. That's a very powerful theme or moral. Yes. I love how you guys are interacting. I love how you guys are really digesting this poem. This is great. You guys are doing a great job. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? Any questions? No questions? So can anyone put that poem in their own words? How would you paraphrase that poem, The Germ? How would you put it in your own words? What would you say? How would you break that poem down and put it inside of your own words? How would you express yourself? What would you say? Yes. Julia says, germs look for bodies to live in. And if you're ever feeling sick, it's because of them. Definitely. Anyone else? Yeah, it's a great interpretation. Anyone else want to share? How would you put that poem in your own words? How would you paraphrase it? Germs will always be a part of us and we have to accept it and move on. Yeah. Anyone else? If you're feeling sick, it might be because of the germs and they're coming. Definitely. Definitely. If you ever want to go back and revisit the poem, it's written by Ogun Nash, and it's just another view of it in case you want to go back, really think about why he was writing the poem. I always like to do background knowledge on the author. So I like to study different poets. That really helps a lot with knowing how to break down the poem, with using inferencing skills, with knowing facts about the poem. It really helps me go into my mind and really think about what the author was thinking when they created a poem. So when I think about doing background knowledge, I think about Robert Frost. I think about Maya Angelou. I think about various poets that maybe had, I know for Maya Angelou, she had a very tragic life. So when I'm reading her poetry, or when I'm reading different poetry, I like to really think about the lifestyle and maybe the era that the person lived in to really help me understand what their poetry is about and maybe different things that they'll try to express in order to really help me break down the poem. Yeah, Taz says germs symbolize every bad thing that humans can have, like greed, selfishness, and we have to learn to live with it. I love that interpretation, definitely. That greed, that germs can represent greed, selfishness, maybe jealousy, how it takes over a body, maybe covetousness, how it takes over, and it almost like a childish pride, and it often pleases. It definitely can represent greed and how it is never full. It gives people strange diseases. It makes people think. It makes people act different ways. It makes people feel sick, like sick with greed or sick with jealousy. That's a great interpretation. Yeah. His customary dwelling place is deep within the human race. Maybe he's living deep within the human race, waiting to infest, waiting to get passed on, maybe through conversation, maybe through almost like a cough or a sneeze, or maybe a conversation, or maybe something you see on the internet, or maybe, different things that causes germs to pass. Definitely, it could be greed, selfishness, pride, jealousy, different things that live within the human race that's passed through communication, that's passed through touch, that's passed through various things. So yes, these are great interpretations. I'm loving this. You guys are doing an amazing job. So again, when I broke this poem down, I said that germs, with my symbolism, it says it represents sickness, pathogens, or unclean species. My eye for inference was I infer that the author was probably someone who had a sense of humor. Maybe he does not like germs. Maybe his occupation could have possibly been a doctor, a nurse, or maybe he wanted to spread awareness about germs and the cause of diseases. Again, when I was reading this poem, I really tried to visualize and put myself into the author's shoes and really think about, why would a poet write a poem about it? Yeah. Inference is always about the author. No, inference can sometimes be about the author, or it could be about their lifestyle, or it could be about maybe the message of the poem. So great question. It does not always have to be about the author. No. It could be about the author, or it could be about the background knowledge. And then the I in SIFT also stands for imagery. So what do you see when you read the poem? I hope that answers your question. Then the F in SIFT. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. The F in SIFT stands for figurative language, and the patterns I saw were infirm, germ, diseases, and pleases. And I also saw a rhyme scheme for that. And then my theme was the tone of the author was very mild but serious. And I believe he had a great sense of humor, and it was very comical. When I read this poem, kind of made me laugh because I just like the different imagery that I saw. I like how he used personification to give germ almost a sense of humor. So I really thought that it was hilarious. Does anyone have a question about SIFT before we move on? Any questions about SIFT? Any clarifications? Do you recommend a specific order in which to follow SIFT? Yes, I do. Great question. So Taz asks, do I recommend a specific order when following SIFT? I do. So when I'm analyzing poetry, the first thing that I like to direct or really help people to do is to read the poem first. That's the first thing I would do, is read the poem. Secondly, my first time is for knowledge. The second time is to break the poem down. So the first time I read the poem is just to skim through. Do I recognize anything? Have I heard of the author before? What do I image? What do I imagine when I'm reading the poem? Then the second time I read the poem is usually for me to break the poem down. So immediately after I read a poem, I write SIFT out to the side of my notes, and then I break the poem down immediately. What symbolism do I see? What inferencing? So someone asks, can I use the SIFT to break down poetry on the AP test? Yes, you can use SIFT. Yes, that'll be a great strategy to break down poetry. Tess, does that answer the question? And I hope I also answered the question too. Is that a great strategy for the AP test? Yes, it is. Oh, you're welcome. I just want to do a quick check. What difference can tone make in a poem? What difference can tone make in a poem? Because Ben said it gives it more feeling. Natalie says how it helps the reader to interpret the message. It can set the mood, definitely. Yes, definitely. Tone is what lets you know how the author is approaching the topic. Yes, definitely. Tone is definitely helps you recognize how the author is expressing in the topic. Okay, why is it important to paraphrase a poem? So when thinking about your test, when thinking about what do you have ahead, how can paraphrasing really help you with strategy, with maybe breaking down those questions? Yes, it's easy to remember. Yes. Do you think that this strategy can help you with reading poetry? Do you think that using SIFT to read the poem, analyze the questions, maybe if they're asking you about rhyme scheme, maybe they're asking you about personification or repetition or tone, I believe it helps. Yes. She said it's easy to remember. I believe that SIFT really helps to strategize before answering the questions because a lot of questions can be answered with SIFT. So for example, they say you are answering a question about theme or overall message, and it's a question on your test. If you've already broken your poem down, you automatically know, okay, maybe this is an implied theme, or maybe this is an explicit theme. You would already know based off of your analysis of the poem what the answer is. Or maybe if they're asking you about a specific line or meter in the poem, or maybe they're asking you about a specific stanza. If I've already broken that poem down, it decreases my time and it helps me to go ahead and answer questions through the process of elimination. I hope this helps. Do you guys think that this strategy can really help you on the test? If we could read the poem twice, then how do you recommend we do it quickly? Do you have a specific strategy? Yes. Okay, so someone asked, how would I recommend you read the poem quickly? So based off my analysis, I looked at a couple of poems, and they're usually about maybe 1 to 2 stanzas long. I would read the poem quickly the first time to skim through. I wouldn't really dive deep into it. I would skim through, look for rhyme scheme, look for anything that's being repeated, because usually things that are repeated are important. So anything, if the poem is about maybe nature, that I'm looking for specific themes, what's being repeated. While the first time that I'm reading the poem, do I see any repetition? Is this a lyrical poem? Is this a free verse poem? The second time I read it, that's when you dive in deep. The second time is when you use that SIFT strategy. It's when you break that poem down. It's maybe when you internalize and really think about what's the theme, what's the overall message, any figurative language. That figurative language is really a key piece because from my research, basically a lot of those questions, similes, metaphors, alliteration, and I think it's important to really know the meaning and analogies because it really helps with breaking down poetry. It really helps to maybe have background knowledge. Maybe you study analogies and similes and metaphors to really understand in order to break a poem down quickly. And I think the only way in order to do that is really through practice, reading various poems multiple times, becoming knowledgeable about figurative language and themes, symbolisms, and really overall messages. It really helps. It really helps. I hope that answered you guys' question. Yeah, and it can help reduce your reading time. It definitely can. We're going to look at one more poem, and I really love Robert Frost. So when you're reading this poem, I want you guys to really think about SIFT. So let's see if we can analyze this poem really quick in order to help with the management of time. So I want you guys to think about what symbolism, inference, figurative language, and theme do you see? October by Robert Frost. Oh, hush, October morning mild, begin the hours of this day slow. Make the day seem to us less brief. Hearts not averse to be being beguiled. Beguile us in a way you know. Release one leaf at the break of day. At noon, release another leaf. So what symbolism do you guys see? Any symbolism? Good. And it says personification. Yes. So that personification would definitely go under the figurative language in your SIFT strategy. Yes. The symbolism of fall. Good. Anything else? Yes. The leaves symbolize letting something go. Definitely. The transition from fall to winter. Beautiful. Yes. What about October? Yes. He wants us to slow down. What about October? What does October symbolize? What symbolism do you think October symbolizes? Yes, fall and Halloween, definitely. Good. Oh, hushed October morning mile. Definitely. I definitely see. Now it says spooky vibes. Oh, hushed October morning mile. Definitely. Eerie things. Yes, October represents eerie things, scary things, changes of seasons, the ending of one year, beginning of the next. Definitely. I have a quick question. Why do you think Robert Frost told the morning to hush? Oh, hushed October morning mild. I see some alliteration, morning and mild, but why do you think he called the morning of October hushed? Does anyone know? Why do you think he called the morning of October hushed? When I think about it, I think about, yes, because it's quiet. A problem that makes days short, but the time starts. Yes, your anger starts going away with it. Yes, definitely. With the time change. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Oh, hushed October morning mile, begin the hours of this day slow. So I think about mornings. I think about how the hours of the day, you really want the hours of your morning to slow down, kind of like getting up early in the morning. You wish that you could tell your mornings to slow down, but sometimes mornings go by quick. Begin the day seems make the day seem to us less brief. So when I think about that, I think about how during the fall months, sometimes we have less, it seems like less time during the day and more time to sleep at night. So make the day seem to us less brief. Hearts not averse to be beguiled. Beguile us in the way you know. Release one leaf at the break of day. At noon, release another leaf. So when reading this poem, I think about a clock, and the symbolism that I see is a clock slowing down, and it kind of like the leaves falling off the trees little by little, because you want your morning to slow down. So I visualize Robert Frost looking out of his window and speaking to the day, almost telling the leaves to slow down because he's about to start his day. But I think that really helps. So I see imagery, that I in SIFT, the imagery. I see a lot of figurative language. Oh, hushed October morning mile. So that's definitely personification. Someone said earlier, definitely personification. Make the day seem less as brief. So, quick question: is this a lyrical poem or a free verse poem? Is it lyrical? Is it free verse? Yes. Yes, definitely free verse. Definitely free verse. So, what do you think the overall theme of this poem is? So, we have the symbolism, inference, we see figurative language, theme, possibly slowing down time. Yes. Anything else? So think about Robert Frost. Put yourself in his shoes. What mindset, what thoughts are you thinking when you read this poem? Yeah, and it's hesitation to say goodbye. Yeah. Anyone else? What theme, what tone, what lesson do you think he wants you to gain from this poem? Yeah, to cherish each day. Yeah. Maybe cherish the seasons as well. Maybe his favorite season was in October. And he didn't really want the next season to start. So it's almost like being stuck in the moment or really enjoying yourself, not really wanting the time to pass by. This is really good. So, how can you put this poem into your own words? How would you put this poem into your own words? I'll go back. How would you put Robert Frost's October into your own words? How would you paraphrase it? And what do you think the tone is? What do you think the tone of his poem? How would you put it in your own words to really help you understand and digest what he's saying? This is only a small snippet of the poem. Really, the poem is about almost 2 stanzas, but I only gave a small snippet. But if you would like to, there's always, I would go to poetry, different poetry sites. Read the rest of the poem. I mean, it is a beautiful poem, and it really helps you to break down. I would really suggest too in the future, go through, read various poems, and really practice using this strategy and this skill because it really helps. I believe it really helps. So when I asked earlier, can this help with the test? Yes. I would practice the skill of breaking down poetry quickly. That can really help too. Like maybe 2 poems or maybe 1 poem a night extra to really assist with learning the strategy. And I also go back in case anyone wants to write that strategy down. Stood for symbolism. I stood for inferencing. F stood for figurative language. And then the T stood for theme. Yeah, again, I would paraphrase this poem as in really enjoying the moment, really embracing the season that you're in, and really embracing and enjoying time. I think the tone of the poem was really calming. It was really peaceful, and it was almost relaxing. Again, the imagery that I saw when reading the poem was maybe a clock, fall, October, various seasons, also leaves, autumn. It really helped. It really helps. And it really helps, I believe, to really analyze the poem and take your time. I don't think that when it comes to reading quickly, I think sometimes it can almost stifle or maybe help. It almost can sometimes make you um, almost miss the beauty of poem, the beauty of the poem, and really kind of overview or overlook the theme. So I think when reading quickly, make sure that you catch the theme as well. Does anyone have any questions before we wrap up? Okay, no questions. No question. Okay. Well, again, I would like to invite you guys to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. But it's been a great session. I hope you guys enjoy analyzing poetry. I hope you guys go back, really use. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Really go back, use that strategy. I think it'll be a key and it will really help you. You're welcome. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Rice, for having. I hope you have a great week too. Thank you. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I hope that strategy really helped you when analyze poetry. You're welcome. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for participating. Thank you guys for your emojis and for journaling and for breaking down that poem. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Well, I'll see you guys next time. Hope to see you in the next session. Have a great week. Bye.